Hi everybody, my name is Elizabeth and I'm a librarian here at the LSC Tomball Community Library. Welcome to our very last episode of Screenshots for the year. Yes, that is right, although it feels like it's been a full decade, it is finally the very last day of 2020. It sometimes feels like our lives have ground to a halt this year, and that's not just in our personal lives, it's also been in the film industry. Some of the movies I was most looking forward to from this year were pushed back for theatrical releases next year, although there was still a lot of really great cinema happening. And whether they meant to or not at the time, a lot of the films that came out this year, inadvertently or not, can't help but be viewed in conversation with our own circumstances, dealing with themes like isolation, social turbulence, or our deep human need for escapism when times are hard. So today we are going to look at 4 of my very favorite films of 2020 that you can watch for free with your library card. So if you are looking for something to do while you're waiting for the ball to drop tonight, this is the perfect way to do it. So stick around to find out about 4 of my favorite films of 2020. Let's get started. As might be expected, 2020 has been a great year for horror movies in a time where other genres haven't really managed to flourish. And Carlo Mirabella Davis's film Swallow is a great example of what horror looks like coming out of 2020. This film is going to be missing a lot of the flair you might expect from horror movies, and there are no jump scares, monsters, or serial killers to be found. Even the gore that is present is relatively subdued, but that doesn't mean that Swallow is boring, because the stakes are still incredibly high, but the very tame setting makes everything feel hugely amplified and intense. Swallow follows a beautiful young woman who has left her working class upbringing to marry the son of a high-powered Manhattan CEO. This man is so wealthy that she doesn't have to work, leaving her alone in her lavish new home most of the time. Swallow is a film that traffics deeply in the terror of isolation, and although she's living in the lap of luxury, it doesn't really seem to be sitting very well with her, and this manifests through a desire to eat household objects. This starts with a marble, but she gradually escalates the things she wants to swallow to incredibly horrifying effect. As Swallow takes place largely within our protagonist's house, it might strike a little close to home for some viewers, particularly since it follows the ways that isolation and loneliness can eventually metastasize into profound psychological agony. But Swallow is definitely a stylish and disturbing addition to the canon of housewife horror. You can check out Swallow on DVD from the Harris County Public Library. Unfortunately, stifling marriages that place women in physical or emotional pain are nothing new, and they're also the subject of our next film. Although the marriage in Celine Sciamma's Portrait of a Lady on Fire largely doesn't happen during the movie, the dread about this can be felt through the entire runtime. Set in late 18th century France, Portrait of a Lady on Fire follows Eloise, a beautiful, aristocratic young woman who is set to be married to a nobleman in Milan. To confirm this arrangement, the nobleman has requested a portrait of Eloise to be commissioned and sent to him, but because Eloise doesn't want to get married, she's managed to evade all of the portrait artists who've been sent to paint her. To try and get around this, Eloise's mother hires Marianne, a female portrait artist, to paint Eloise in secret, telling Eloise that Marianne is just there to be her friend. Marianne closely observes Eloise during their time together so that at the end of the day she can paint Eloise in secret and then send the finished portrait off to her fiancé without Eloise's consent. But what nobody plans for is that Marianne and Eloise have an intense, immediate connection, and ultimately Marianne refuses to uphold her end of the ruse, letting Eloise in on the secret. Although the circumstances of this film are admittedly pretty dark, the burn is undercut somewhat by just how intensely gorgeous it is. From the rugged coastline of this isolated French island to the sumptuous 18th century costumes, Portrait of a Lady on Fire vacillates between being pure escapism, but also bringing you back to the material conditions that our heroines are dealing with. So if you're looking for something that allows you to take a little bit of an imaginary vacation, but also has some real stuff that you can sink your teeth into, Portrait of a Lady on Fire is absolutely perfect. You can check it out on DVD from the Harris County Public Library. It's been a rough year for women in movies. They've been given complex, powerful roles to play, but very few of them have made it to the end credits happy, and that is also the case with our next film, Kitty Green's The Assistant. There are a lot of films about the film industry, but this one takes us further behind the scenes than usual, following the everyday people who keep the industry afloat by following a day in the life of an overworked young assistant named Jane, played by Julia Garner, who is quickly becoming one of my absolute favorite up-and-coming actors. Jane is the personal assistant of a Hollywood film producer who, although we never actually see it happen, it is clear is exploiting his position of power, particularly over the young women that he works with. We follow Jane through a single, incredibly long workday as she realizes the extent of the exploitation that she sees and tries to solve the problem using the very limited tools at her disposal. Ultimately, The Assistant is more Swallow than it is Portrait of a Lady on Fire, and the perspective is incredibly claustrophobic and anxious as we are essentially chained to Jane's perspective. And although we never actually see the exploitation as it happens, this gives us the feeling of a horror movie where all of the violence happens just off screen. The Assistant is an incredibly tense watch, but one that feels particularly necessary and one that is done with incredible tact and grace. You can check out The Assistant on DVD from the Harris County Public Library. I will admit, I've really put you all through the ringer with this list, just as 2020 has put us all through a variety of ringers, but I would not be able to sleep well at night if I didn't leave you with at least something to cleanse your palates, and luckily I can do that with my absolute favorite film of 2020, Autumn de Wilde's Emma. Sometimes, even if we have Michelin-starred food available, we want comfort food, and Emma is the cinematic equivalent of the very best comfort food. Following the plot of Jane Austen's classic novel, Emma Woodhouse is a rich, beautiful busybody in early 19th century England. She has so few personal problems that she has taken to solving the problems of other people, which manifests through matchmaking, which she is convinced she is a genius at after setting up her childhood governess with a local widower. Emma is one of Austen's most frequently adapted books, and each adaptation is delightful in its own way, but the most delightful thing about de Wilde's Emma is the way that it looks. Prior to making this film, de Wilde worked primarily as a photographer, and so because of this, each frame is expertly dressed to look absolutely fabulous. The colors are bright and vibrant, the costumes are obviously amazing, and the dialogue is fresh and witty in a way that makes Emma feel superbly modern, even though everyone travels by horse and carriage. If you want to start 2021 on a good note, I really can't think of a better way to do it than by watching this movie full of beautiful people in beautiful clothes whose most pressing issues are accidentally offending your friend's awkward cousin at a picnic. Plus, I can't really think it's a spoiler at this point to tell you that Emma has a happy ending, which I think we all deserve after getting through 2020. you can check out Emma on DVD through the Harris County Public Library. Those were 4 of my favorite movies of 2020 that you can watch for free through the Harris County Public Library. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter so that you never miss a future episode of Screenshots or any of our other great online programs. And a huge thank you to everyone who has joined me for a year of Screenshots. I can't wait to see what great movies 2021 has for us, and be sure to let me know if there's any topic, director, or genre you'd like to see me cover on here. I'm always excited to watch new movies, and I want to give the people what they want. So thank you again so much for watching, and have a very, very happy new year. Bye.